Hello, everybody! Welcome to another episode of 10 Forward Weekly. That was much longer than a 5 count. Sorry, everybody. I was unmuting myself. Welcome. Tonight is a very special Fleet Week edition of Star Trek. Star Trek. Yep. That's what it is. It's a Fleet Week edition of Star Trek. It's also 10 Forward Weekly. I am your host, Mike Fadum, also known as Ambassador Kel. I'm also your community manager. And I've got three great guests this week. I am joined by Jeremy Randall, Senior Systems Designer, Associate Art Director Thomas Maroney, and Senior Artist Mauricio Tejerina. Say hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello. Hello. Fleet Week.
Yay, Fleet Week. Fleet Week has been awesome so far. I've been
Fleet
so
Week
excited.
stinger, that's the first time I saw that. That was really cool.
Yeah, Q did such a good job with that. He said it to me during the week.
You, Q.
He said it to me during the week of just like, hey, I made this thing. Is it okay if I use it? And I was like, is it okay if we use it?
Yeah, I really regret Q. I apologize. Well, he's actually streaming right now too. He's got Dr. Aaron McDonald on his channel.
No, he's competing with our stream, so it's dead to us.
Cool.
I actually had a couple of creators who I felt bad, but they were like, can I get some giveaway codes? I'm streaming directly during one of your streams that you announced for Fleet Week, and I'm like, I can't give you codes to pull people away from our streams that we're doing.
Yeah. But you know, Q's gonna be streaming a lot this week actually, so I will be on with Q and the guy from Checkyards on Friday afternoon. I think at 4:30 or something around then.
The guy from Checkyards.
Guys from Checkyards, yeah.
Sam Cochran. Oh, the guys from. Okay, yeah, I thought you were just on with Sam, and you were just calling him the guy from Checkyards. Sorry.
No. Sorry. Sam Cockings and Stuart Foley are going to be on Q stream, and I'm going to hang out with them. They're fun. They're fun, and they love starships. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Blaze Wagner, I'm going to cut you off because you've asked 3 times on Facebook already. As God is my witness, we will never make a curry class. I don't care if there's one in the game already. God is my witness. It's a super Oberth. Death first. If I see it on the ship schedule, I'm going to erase it from the ship schedule.
Oh man.
It is a super Oberth.
It is. It's a super mega Oberth.
Yeah, I haven't really thought of it that way, but you're right. It's an Oberth with like worse proportions.
Yeah.
Yep. How can we take an already weird ship and make it even weirder?
That's easy.
The Oberth and the Curry class are the biggest proof besides the Star Wars prequels and Shrek 2 that art is subjective, because there are people who really love those things. For some reason.
No counting for taste.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are here to reveal a lot of ships. We've got 4 ships, and I saw some of the chat. None of the ships that you're going to see tonight are lockbox ships. There's 2 Zenstore ships, 2 remasters of previously existing ships, and also Thomas is going to give us a breakdown on the remaster that he did of the Enterprise F, because that's canon now! What's up?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we're gonna get a closer look at the remaster. I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I think I've pretty much settled on this decision that we're probably not gonna put the remastered Odyssey in the game until that goes live.
Until it appears in the show, yeah.
Yeah. So you'll have to be a bit of a wait for that. We just don't really want to steal their thunder too much in terms of showing the Enterprise F in the show. But I'm gonna give everybody a little bit of a tour of it today. We're gonna get a closer look at some of the changes that I made. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Ed Jacob Berger says they did mess with your timeline, however. Yeah, we know. Always knew that was going to happen from the moment Picard was announced. Remind me to tell you someday the story of Thomas wandering the halls looking forlornly at posters, thinking about how they were going to decanonize us.
Yeah.
But
It's a bit of a mixed bag, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Because we've gotten a bunch of stuff canonized. But to answer the question that I've seen a lot on Twitter, we don't know, but I seriously doubt Sean will be the captain of that ship. If you even see the captain of that ship in Picard, we don't know how it's going to show up. We just knew that it would. So yeah, before we dive into looking at some ships, let us look at some fan art because we got a bunch this week. Speaking of the Odyssey, Stu1701. Oops, hold on. Thomas is above the fan art. That is unacceptable.
What a statement.
I'm
Thomas is
riding. I'm
above
riding
your-
the ship.
um, Thomas. So anyway, this is a wonderful shot Stu1701 sent us of the Odyssey. It looks like it's flying into a wormhole. I assume it's flying into some sort of giant console effect or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is the temporal vortex from First Contact Day a couple years ago.
That makes sense.
Pretty sure.
Arvis Tajik sent us this awesome shot. This is actually not a class in Star Trek Online. This is a model he made of his own custom class, which is pretty cool. It's very Discovery looking. I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of got a blend of the Andromeda Titan aesthetic with the Discovery blueprint, layout. So yeah, it's a good job.
Yeah. All right. Ash Wallace, our friend behind the my brain just blanked out on what it's called. The thing that he does where the changes the colors.
Reshade.
Reshade. Thank you.
It's in the corner of the.
Yeah, there we go. I've got all kinds of stuff on my screen. I can't see it in the corner, but he has created a lower decks shader, which he is using. He says it probably isn't good for playing the game, but it can be great for screenshots as shown here, and also here. Looks great.
I have a feeling it won't play well with a lot of hair.
Yeah.
So use at your own risk in that scenario. But
yeah, a lot of that stuff, you really can't play the game with it on. It'll just mess everything up. But you can definitely take some cool shots. Big Papa Tart, who had a super successful stream this week, congratulations, sent us this awesome shot he got during Pirate Scum Gaming stream of a whole fleet hanging out together. I love how this looks.
The Borg Dreadnought. I was like, what is that?
It's coming for your soul.
How many ships are in there?
That was, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ships that I see. There might be more.
It looks like, is that an Earth space dock?
I think so, yeah, with the dramatic lighting like that. Gotta be.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? I might have actually told this story on stream before, but like looking at fan art before we reveal the ships reminds me of when I was a kid. And we would have dinner at an Italian restaurant on Christmas Eve, and then before we opened presents, our parents would make us drive around and look at Christmas lights.
Oh man!
So now we're looking at Christmas lights.
Right? Yeah.
Before we get to open our presents.
I mean, I'm excited to look at fan art and everything. It's great, but it's just funny that we're like, and now we're gonna do this, and now we're gonna do this. Yeah, we'll get to the ships eventually.
We'll get to the ships. This is what's called building
Anticipation.
So this next one is from ID Gaming Fed. It's I'm gonna be honest. Wait, has he got someone walking in space in this image? Yeah. He totally does.
That
Good
can
job.
happen.
Yep.
What is this? What is a flat planet? Now I'm really
it's
actually
like
don't know where this
planet.
is.
Yeah, I don't know what he did.
wondering
I
if this
assumed
is
that
some
was.
sort
You're
of
right. That is a
demo
flat
record
planet. I
trickery.
assumed that was an effect. All right, I have no idea. He's proved the Earth is flat. Meanwhile, Jonathan Mirage sent us this really cool look for his Romulan ship, whose name I have forgotten. But I love
Valdor.
Valdor, thank you. I love that. I don't know if that's a shield or if that's just colors you picked out, but that's a really good look. And also from Jonathan is this neat shot of his Romulan just looking like a total badass holding that new sword. I love the way you pose with that thing. It's great. Kid Fox Jr. X sent us this shot of the Stargazer to celebrate the new Stargazer. This is the old Stargazer, obviously.
Oh, you did that one, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the old Stargazer.
Oh, wait. Oh, I've seen it now.
Tobias Richter did our remaster of the Constellation class.
Got it.
Stargazer.
Cool. And the Kitsula, I'm not going to leave this up long enough for everybody to read it, but they made a whole breakdown of their entire Voth-themed crew and
That's
everybody
cool.
on the ship, and it's neat. I remember there was a while where everybody was doing these, and it was really fun.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I really love this. I love seeing this and all the lore and the thought that goes into people's crews
Mhm.
like this. It's super cool.
Yeah. Evil Mark 443, I agree. I would also like to get the extending sword from the Kelvin timeline someday. I'm surprised we never did that one.
I'm also surprised. I don't know if it was. I don't think it would be. I feel like it's something we could do.
Yeah, it should be. I
Probably
mean,
could. It's just requires a lot of animation support to get it
Yeah.
working, and
yeah.
holsterable.
Oh, but
correctly and all that.
we've done crazier things since then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we sure have. And
Someone is
finally,
fucking-
Mario Kuiken sent us this shot of an Eisenberg class single-handedly destroying V'ger because
Yeah.
Aaron would just annoy V'ger to
That's
death.
the other. That's not
Right.
V'ger. That's the other.
A V'ger.
I don't
V'ger
care.
adjacent.
All right. Well, cool. Should we look at ships? Do you guys want to look at some ships?
No, I think we're done here. Let's go.
Okay.
Great
Well, before
Christmas
we
lights,
do that, I
everybody.
actually have I have a 2-hour monologue I need to deliver. All right, let's go look at some ships.
Oh, before you
All
do
right,
that,
first up.
somebody's asking about putting 3D printed ships as fan art. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, send us 3D
Mhm.
printed ships, please, especially the ones you print,
Yeah.
officially through our 3D printing service. Please send that away.
Yes.
Oh, look at this, Thomas. What is this?
This is the long requested for some reason T6 25th century Norway.
We all have
with-
opinions, folks.
Right.
This is prettier than an Oberth or a Curry, though.
this is my. I mean, like, first of all, I spent actually you guys can vouch for this. I spent like several minutes trying to practice the pronunciation of this.
Yeah.
Valdras.
Valdras.
Valdras class escort carrier, command
Strike-wing
escort carrier.
Strike-wing escort.
Vintage carrier name there because I'm using the
Yes.
escort carrier
A
name.
C or an S at the end of the name of this ship.
S.
Yeah.
So this is obviously the 25th century version of the Norway. In a bit, we'll show you the cannon Norway, which also will be part of this ship. The cannon skin. This was, if you couldn't tell, this was designed and modeled by Eric Henry.
Thomas
another
is saying
great-
that because at the moment I looked at it, I was like, "This is one of Eric's ships, isn't it?" I love it.
Right.
I love just how sleek all of his stuff is.
Yeah,
great,
it looks great, and it was one of those things too where I there was no real rush on my part to do the Norway because I couldn't really. Frankly, it wasn't my favorite, but people kept asking for it. So I mean, when you ask for stuff, it's not we don't necessarily get to it right away, but it's something we added up in our heads in these tallies of like, there seems like a critical mass behind this, or yeah, that's something we should do eventually. And I did want all the first contact ships in the game eventually. And for a while I couldn't really figure out like why does the Norway look the way it does? What is it for? And then I realized I was looking at it and it reminded me of one of those like heavy lift cargo helicopters, the big sky crane helicopters with the big gap in the back. And so once I like latched onto that as like, oh, this could be essentially a heavy lift starship that can pick up giant like prefab cargo pods and colony pods and take them to the frontier or something. Then I got actually pretty excited about it. And I talked to Eric, and if you can spin the camera around to the bottom, and if we can get the ship positioned where we can get a good look at the bottom, there's so much fun detail on the bottom of the ship that he added. Like these giant, like hatches and landing pads and like
Those look like they could
cranes.
be like mag clamps or something.
Yeah.
Cargo attached.
Man,
If you actually
that's beautiful.
tilt this up to the light, we can see a little bit easier. But there's just there's so much fun detail when we realize like the flat is so it's like it looks like a clothes iron. Like what is this about? The cannon Norway, and then it's like well. Why do you need the saucer to be flat? And it's like, well, I guess you need it to be flat if it landed, and then that sort of like spiraled into the whole cargo ship idea, and then Eric took that and ran with it for this for his variant. And so we got, actually got, now I'm really excited and I really like Norway now I know what it's for, because I think that's a cool like a cool part of the universe you don't see much of, right?
Mhm.
The idea of these big heavy lift ships, and
And
it
the
makes
Federation
sense.
needs them for like
Yeah.
bringing
Yeah.
prefab colonies or science
Right.
outposts to the frontier and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you also mentioned like troop transports for during the
Yep.
Cardassian War would have been something that
Yeah.
could have been very useful for occupying or reoccupying Federation
Which
worlds.
ties into a conversation we had last night.
Yeah, exactly. So I expect that was one of the things the Norways did a lot in the Dominion War was carrying troops around and landing them on planets, where there was. I mean, the thing is, if you have, and they actually talk about this in I think the Siege of AR 558 or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah.
That the Dominion have transporter inhibitors, scattered around the planet, so you can't just beam down, right? So if you have a planet that has these anti-transporter fields or dampening fields, and you want to get a lot of troops to the surface quickly, you really you got to put them in a giant ship, right, and land them and disembark and everything. So so once
God,
we
I'm just
latched onto that idea, we got
being a Mako in a space box, just sitting
Right?
there waiting for them to land, being like, as soon as this door opens, there's going to be 10,000 Jem'Hadar, and they're going to be mad.
Right. It's very much like Attack of the Clones,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, right? Which that Attack of the Clones is not my favorite Star Wars movie, but that's one of my favorite Star Wars like sequences. Like
Yeah.
that battle on Geonosis is so cool.
It's very
They
cool.
come down.
I love
So-
how the shape of the ship from the top looks like it was all carved out of a single piece of like clay
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah,
It's
and
such a cool
that's
shape.
definitely Eric is really really good at.
Yeah, the saber looked like that too, and it was
Mhm.
fabulous. Cool. All right. So, Jeremy, tell us a little bit about
Hi.
the role this ship will be filling.
Okay, well, just like Thomas was saying, we took that fiction and kind of ran with it, and this has ended up being the Valdras Command Strike Wing Escort. The idea that it can carry cargo meant, well, it's probably a good candidate for carrying hangar pets. So we took that and ran with it. This ship is a little bit on the heavy side for an escort, as most of our Strike Wing escorts are. It comes with one hangar bay and unique pets.
Yeah,
that we
sorry,
will get to in a
people
bit.
were getting excited about it, so I wanted to show them off. But please continue saying.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I do want to mention that we're showing the ship a little earlier than we normally show a ship, which means a lot of the art that you're seeing is still work in progress.
Oh, so these aren't the finals.
just wanna
Should I
get
not
that
show
out there.
these?
No, these are the finals. Sorry, the
Okay.
icons are work in
Oh
progress.
yeah,
and
yeah,
I think the effects might be a work in progress, but these are
Correct.
the final. The models are all final.
Okay.
Yep.
And here we go. People kind of guessed about this because we hinted about this a few weeks ago about bringing elements from other older classic Star Trek games into STO. And I'm actually glad Mo's here because Mo is actually the one who modeled these.
Yeah.
And so we didn't. Some people guessed the carrier from Star Trek Invasion, but it was actually the Valkyrie fighters. And I've always loved these. I think the fighters from Star Trek Invasion were all really cool. They had a good they were really good adaptation of the Starfleet aesthetic to something that hadn't really been shown in Starfleet or Star Trek before. And I for a long time, and Jeremy can attest to this, for a long time I have wanted us to do a 25th century Federation fighter.
An upgrade to the Peregrines.
Yeah, an upgrade to the Peregrine, exactly. And so instead of I just on a whim I emailed our partners at CBS and was like, because we had a sort of a conversation about it obliquely, and I was like, just to check, if we make our own model inspired by something from an older video game, like that's cool, right? We can totally do that. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. And so I was like, yes, all right, then we're gonna do the Valkyrie. Like, why make something new when there's this really cool thing from a classic game that we can do an homage
Which
to?
Which
And-
also is
really
awesome.
kismet to match up the Valkyries with the Norway.
right?
Yeah. But that's great too because it opens the door for us to do other stuff. I see a bunch of requests for other ships from games pouring in chat. I mean, those doors are now open to us. So request those, and I'll tell Thomas what you want.
Yeah, they're open, but it's also this was an opportunity to do something that made sense, right? There's There are a lot of stars that have to align for it to make sense to bring in some of these older ships, older designs, and we're obviously not going to do all of them, or we might not do another one for a very long time. I don't know. It just depends on what the game needs,
Okay,
right?
I'm
And in
looking
this
up
case,
pictures of the Typhon right now that
Yeah.
because everyone in chat is yelling for that, and no,
Right.
we're doing that one, Thomas. Sorry, you got to
yeah,
do
you
it.
like it?
Yeah, you got to do it.
The Typhon isn't my favorite, frankly, but the Valkyries from that game were super cool. So
Yeah.
I definitely wanted to include that. I'm glad to see there are a lot of people excited about it in chat. I think it's a really great little fighter, and it's a squadron too.
Little.
So thank you, Jeremy, for for messing with that, and making sure that we could get a squadron, another squadron in the game. I really enjoy those types of hangar pets more.
They're one of our first Federation pets that's very heavy on torpedoes as well. So that's I know that can be preferable for some. They've got like 4.5 photon torpedoes, and they can use high yield and spread. So they're very, very torpedo-y.
I'm just pulling up the tooltip while you're talking about that so people can see what they've
Mhm.
got. Very cool.
So, and as they go up in ranks, the high yield and spread both go up, so you can get 2 on advanced and 3 on elite.
Yeah. So again, because I saw some people asking in chat, this is a Zen Store ship. You'll be able to purchase this as part of a bundle or just in the Zen Store by itself. But I interrupted you to show off cool fighters when you were telling us about what this ship is and what it does, Jeremy. So go ahead.
What was I saying then?
I don't know.
It's a strike wing escort, and then we
And
start
it is a
playing with the
command
fighters.
ship as well, which is
Yeah.
not something that's frequently represented in the tactical ship realm. But there's a few others, but that's what this one's all built around, is like fleet support and a little bit of pet stuff.
Looks like it's
You
got a
also-
secondary
A
intel
secondary
slot.
intel
Yeah.
seat, yeah.
Command
For all
intel.
your surgical strike needs.
I wanna say it was really exciting to see when we revealed this ship in the chat that everybody knew immediately that it was a Norway variant, and
Yeah.
I think that's one of the fun things. One of the things I'm really proud about how if we can go on a general ship design tangent about how good the team we've assembled is at distilling these essences down and riffing on them and bringing something new to it, but also making sure that core identity is still there.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to, and that's important. It's hard, and it's hard. That's the thing, is you don't like
Yeah,
we've done it so often, but you bring new people in, and I've been doing this lately, trying to train even more people to work on ships for us, and there's just a lot of stuff that you sort of, after a while, you assume it's second nature, but it really isn't. It's learned, and I'm really grateful for everyone
those
like
things-
Eric and
It's also one of those things that the better you get at it, you meaning all of the ship artists, the easier it looks.
Yep.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
you make
It's a
it
long
look
road.
easy.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk experimental weapon and the console for this bad boy. Jeremy, let's start with the.
Yeah.
Right. Let's start with the experimental weapon.
So the experimental weapon kind of follows the riff of Norway Valkyries. We have the Mjolnir. This is
Nice.
a heavy electrical AoE. The Mew Mew, yes.
Yes, the
Mew
Mew
Mew.
Mew. Exactly.
So it basically it's very close in design to the Voice of the Prophets, which many of you are probably familiar with. That came from the Bajoran Interceptor. It does an AoE. It's got a very similar firing cycle, only instead of doing physical, this does electrical damage. That's pretty much all there is to it. The effects, you can fire this when we see it in. It's all placeholder that I put in there as designer art. It hasn't been arted up yet.
Okay, so I probably just won't show it off then because it's not ready for.
It looks like
prime time.
electrical damage. It's just not the final effects.
Yeah.
I'm asking for a projectile that actually looks like the shape of the traditional Mjolnir, with kind of an arrowhead and a big butt on it. Looks like the hammer flying through space.
That would be great. I would love
Yeah.
that. And then we've got the heavy pulsed tractor array.
Yeah. So this is we don't do a lot of these because we understand that they're a little harder to use, but this is actually a dual activation console. And we've called this internally Kirby mode because the first activation is that you pull a ship into you and you can drag them along with you while you do damage to them. And then the second activation is you throw that ship at another ship. So that's I mean the tooltip is a lot more involved because we want to make sure that you understand everything that's happening along the way, but that's what it is at its core is drag this ship and throw it at another ship.
Unfortunately, it does not give you a special hat or anything like that.
No, sorry.
That is a fun console idea though. So to target thing and steal their power for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, no, I wish we've talked about actual
and that's
power stealing, but...
and that kind of comes from the idea of this being a cargo hauler, right? It's going to have
exactly
really powerful tractor beams that can haul up these giant, essentially pods that are the size of a Miranda class ship, right? This is sort of a medium small size ship, but you can fit a Miranda, I think, in between the engines there, and so it's going to have these giant tractor beams that can move other ships around.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's
but if they're too big, they don't move at all. It looks like they just take damage.
Yeah,
and you have to. But if you run up to them, can you still throw them at somebody else, or are they just?
Sadly, no. If they're beyond a certain size, we just make them take additional damage, above what you would take. I'm not sure that the damage on the tooltips is correct now that I look at it. I think it does more damage than that, so that probably needs some investigation. But if you can drag them, then they take less damage because they're not suffering those shearing kinetic forces. But if they're bigger, your tractor beams can't actually drag them, so you're just ripping pieces of their hull off. That's the fiction, anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there kinetic force in space?
Yeah.
Jeremy, there's several people asking if there's going to be Kirby-style sound effects or sound of Mjolnir being thrown when you use this console and experimental weapon. And I can confirm that, yes, there will be. I'm going to send an email to Michael Henry right now, and Jeremy can't stop.
Yeah. Isn't he out? I hope he's out.
It was the first. It was the first Fakiri winter ship where the running joke throughout the QA handoff was me saying that I was going to tell Michael Henry that you had asked it to play an electric guitar solo while flying. He just kept going, please don't.
Well, at some point I do want to get into the Taylor and show off the cannon.
Yeah, I saw those chats too, Thomas. We got to do some more stat stuff. Hold your horses.
Okay. The last thing is the Starship trait, which is kind of a meaty name, constructive deconstructive field interference. This started off as the design concept was we wanted to enhance your tractor beams. So that first section that you see there about your tractor beam office abilities, drain shield from your foe and give it to yourself. That was the whole trait at one point, but then we were like, I think we can afford to add something more to this. So we also went with the idea that energy drain buff abilities also will reduce their kinetic resistance and their drain expertise, which is more drain resistance. So the idea here being that we found that there was a good sort of slice of players that if you're using a tractor beam, you also tend to have a drain build. Not entirely, there's different uses for those too, but we saw enough crossover that we wanted to kind of leverage that play space here. The Yeet console.
That's a greater idea. That's a much better idea. We got to change the name. Yield experimental export. Yeah, no, that's perfect.
I love a good backronym.
Mark Hockman says, can it give NPCs negative drain resistance?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you reduce their skill, it just calculates on the skills, and
so we just got to make sure it doesn't do that thing that happens sometimes where it goes past 0 and then goes back up to 197.
Sure. I mean, it's a good question. I'm pretty sure this works though, but it's worth another check. Yeah.
I remember there was some console years ago that happened with it. It was healing enemy ships. It was hilarious. All right, let's warp back to Earth Space Dock, so we can do. I'm just gonna, just in case
ship
there's
Taylor
something.
Stuff.
Yeah, so we can do some Ship Taylor stuff and bring up the next ship.
While you zone, I'll list off some of the other stats that people
sure.
probably want to see. So hull modifier of 1.25, shield modifier of 0.9, so not a shield tank. You saw the weapons 5.2, consoles 4.33. There's a fleet version of this ship, which I think we're about to show in the Taylor, which will have let me double check. Is it 4.43? Tech inch psi? 4.34. So it gains an additional science console. And let's see, turn rate 14, impulse modifier of 0.18, and an inertia rating of 60. I think that covers everything.
People are asking when this comes out. It's a couple of weeks from now. I think the blog isn't written yet, so I think it's 2 weeks from now. Or did you just finish the blog?
Yeah, I just finished.
You just finished the blog, so it should be about 2 weeks away then. But did we not have the Norway in the game before? Is that why people are freaking out about it?
Yes, no,
okay.
we didn't have them in the game before.
Okay,
we
cool.
had the Oslo, which was like an inspired by on a different skeleton.
Right. So this is on its own skeleton, so that we could do it canonically the way we wanted to do it. The saucer stanchions and the cells are separate bones, so you can kind of mix and match between the two. Although the size is a little weird, so you get some, depending on the stanchions, you get a little bit of
I see the clipping
attachment. Yeah.
Yep.
So I might try to massage that a bit, but I'm not sure if I can. It's just we might just have to live with it, but ultimately, having having these two options is pretty cool. So, and then you've got the standard suite of Starfleet materials. It's actually a new material kind of based on the Defiant material. Yeah.
People were asking if we're going to be able to use that on other ships.
No, I mean it's the only real difference between this material and the Defiant material. And if you look at the canon Norway, you'll realize they used renders of the Defiant to texture it. Go to use the Norway preset.
I'm in the Norway preset.
Yeah, I just meant click on the preset spin it around to look at the bottom.
Okay.
Look at the bottom of the hole. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm looking at the Twitch stream, so I think I'm a little behind. But essentially, that pattern, if you compare that to the Defiant, you'll notice that that's the top of the Defiant's hull.
Yeah.
Almost exactly.
Yep.
That's amazing.
So this material is based on the Defiant material for that reason. But there were a few details that were different, so we cloned it off and changed those details to make sure it was accurate. And it also is using the Sovereign escape pods.
Nice. And yes, someone asked, this is a C-Store ship. I'm just going to hit the randomize button. Oh, wow. That came out cool already.
So the C-Star version is the Valdras, the new one, and the Norway, you'll get the fleet material from the fleet version of that.
Yeah, you do get the Norway for free.
You get the Norway for free. Well, alongside with the Valdras when you purchase that.
Yeah.
Right.
So there you go. Cool. All right. Shall we look at another ship?
There's more.
Actually, there's more. Okay, so how do we want to parse this out? Because we've got another C-Store ship to show. We've got a potential remaster.
Initially, my idea was that we were going to do both C-Store ships first, but I think what I'm going to do actually is do the two remasters next, since we're sitting in Starfleet in Space Dock, and that's the best place to look at those.
Are you cool with that, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see. These are both on the skeleton of the.
You're gonna spoil it.
Miracle Worker Light Cruiser. Okay. Yeah, it's of course you spoil it. And let's go over here. All right, there is that the remastered Excalibur?
Yeah, at the top there.
Okay. All right,
that's
cool.
the remastered Excalibur. So, this
nice.
is the.
I haven't seen this yet.
people who have been. I'm just watching chat. That's great. People who have followed Star Trek Online since the very, very beginning will recognize the Excalibur as the ship that was on the box. This is the ship that's hovering over handsome phaser guy, and it was it was kind of high time to give it some love, and additionally, basically, we recently finished the final Miranda version to be remastered, right? We remastered the Shakar, and so basically what I want to do now is just start going through each tier of these old starships and do it essentially one tier and ship type at a time, because otherwise you could just hop around as you felt like it. But I kind of want to do it systematically, starting from the ships that are you get early on in the game,
Mhm.
and going further and further ahead, right? And so the Excalibur, and a lot of these remasters, what my plan is taking the STO original ship design and then filtering it through the closest canonical lens so that so that we can kind of blend. And this is exactly what we did with the Shakar, where it's like, this is this kind of weird funky design. All right, let's take an era of Star Trek Starship, and we're gonna really reimagine it based on that era and make it feel like it really fits into that era. And so for the Excalibur, the obvious choice was the Sovereign class, and the Excalibur is essentially a Sovereign style constitution, and so so this was done by our outsourcing partners at Virtuos. We had a concept artist at Cryptic. Kelly Phillips did the concept for us, kind of taking these parts and kind of getting the blueprint for them, and then our Virtuos artists rebuilt the ship, and using the Sovereign as inspiration.
Yeah, this is really cool.
Well, I just love that I can
nice.
still see elements of the old kind of chunky, kind of low res, like launch era Excalibur there, but it's been made pretty.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah,
and this. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I like you want it to still like be recognizable as what it was, but to the degree that it still looks appropriate and matches with the style that you're going for. And so there are a couple other changes we made with this. By adding this, I went ahead and made the Sovereign refit material. We're gonna unlock that to everybody. You don't have to own the Legendary bundle now to use that on any ships that could use it before. So that's just gonna become a free material whenever this goes live, because that's the like natural fit for this ship, and I think it's fine. It's time to unlock it. And then by adding, we needed to add the Sovereign window type to the Constitution skeleton for this. So now all variants of the Constitution will have access to the Sovereign windows as well.
Like 16 of those now. It's
yeah, there are plenty. And yeah, I think that's pretty much the gist of it. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. Olivia Sullivan, our ex-dev, she was our ex-dev artist on this. She did a good job managing the process with our outsourcing artists, and then doing some final tweaks on it to get it to really clean and to look nice in the game. So I don't know how you got 1701 on your.
I for some reason all of my ships from the Legendary bundle on this character are named their canon name with the canon registry. I don't know how I got away with that. Maybe just because it's not on a real server.
Right. Yeah.
But go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think. Oh, and the other thing is, I noticed that there was a support there. I could add the animated texture on the cells, just like the Sovereign. So this has if you look at the Buster collectors, you can see it animate slowly.
That's dope. Funny story about this ship. Like my first 3 months working here. Actually, no, it must have been a year later because it was a summer event. But anyway, my first year working here, I was putting together an image for the summer event, and I wanted to do a ship flying in front of the sun on Ryza. And so I just grabbed Starship 1 out of the object def and put it in place, and caused a huge controversy because I'd accidentally picked the Excalibur somehow, which wasn't available, and everybody was like, "What?
Oh, no.
The Excalibur?" Well, shall we look at the other remaster in this family?
Yeah, you just have to move your mouse, just
click
the
right
next
there.
one on the list.
Ooh, this is nice. Oh, I like this very much. So tell us about the Vesper, Thomas.
So the Vesper is one, and actually it looks like I made some tweaks last night so that the hull is darker than it should be. That's already been fixed.
Okay.
So the Vesper also got remastered because, like I said,
now
I'm doing. Yeah, I'm doing it family by family, or ship by ship in a particular family. But can we go back to the Narendra? I think is the material.
Cool,
So
thank
that's
you.
the other material we added to the Constitution family is the Narendra material. Because when I was looking at the original Vesper, trying to decide what era would this ship, would we reimagine this ship as, the ship that stuck out to me was actually the prototype ambassador class. And I sort of saw that, this is like an advanced version of the Excelsior, with the way the warp nacelles look and the shape of the saucer, and so we took that and kind of ran with it, and so this is meant to be a ship from like the early 24th century, like 2023, 25 or something, or 2340, maybe 40 to 20 to 40 years before Next Generation. And so, that's cool. I'm excited about this because it can flesh out an era of Star Trek we don't know much about. But yeah, and so we did add some of the details based on that prototype ambassador, like the deflector being that copper color, the neck having that grill, those grill details, and the phaser strips making those big. It's kind of inspired by the prototype ambassador,
which was originally kind of an Excelsior evolution in some ways, wasn't it?
A bit, yeah. It was a bit more curvy. It was a bit more of a direct mashup between the Galaxy and the Excelsior. We have it in game. We have the prototype ambassador in the game as the Narendra, the T6 ambassador. And so now you can have a little baby one if you want.
I saw a question in chat. We do a lot of Federation ships. Are you ever going to do more Klingon and Romulan ships? Hey Mo, didn't you just check in a Romulan ship? He's muted, but he said yes. We cannot tell you anything more than that, but yes.
Yeah, I'll tell you which one. But yeah, we do have a new Romulan ship on deck.
Yep. Rotate it around more, please. Sure. Is this good? Is this what you wanted? No. Yeah.
Spin.
Whee!
That's a good trick.
So many Star Wars references tonight. Cool. All right. Well, this is beautiful work, Thomas. I love these remasters you and your team are doing. They're very cool.
There's a third in this family, right?
There's a third remaster?
Yeah, there's a third remaster. I mean, it exists. That's all I'll say about it for now, But
okay. It's not done. It's being made yet.
Not on this list because it's been relegated to the Dilithium store. So, but I have not forgotten about it. I just don't want to promise anything until if we're actually been able to do the work. But I did these two remasters. We didn't want to hold them up. They're ready to go, and I hope they'll be out soon. I imagine I'll talk to production about when they can get out, but before too long, these will be available. But I'm just excited to get some of these older classic STO ships. It's still the same identity. It's not quite as drastic as it needed to be with the Shakar because the base designs were a lot stronger. And when I can, we're going to do that, right? We want to make sure that it does feel the same. But there are a couple stinkers out there that we're really going to have to massage or completely.
Some of the original Olympic variants come to mind.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a mix of like. Some of them are going to be pretty faithful adaptations and upreses, and others are going to be pretty transformative. But
like the Shakar was.
Like the Shakar was, exactly. But the idea is that what I want to do with all of these is essentially like fill in the gaps in Star Trek history a little bit, like we did with the Shakar, where it's like, there wasn't really a Miranda-sized ship of the galaxy. Like there was the Nebula, which was essentially a Miranda galaxy, but it was still volume-wise about as big as the galaxy, right? Mm-hmm. So with the Shakar, we was like, well, there should be smaller support ships more in line with the Cerritos, even though the Cerritos, the California class, is still actually pretty big. And so we're just sort of like it's like, okay, well, let's do these like style pastiches and stuff to fill in all these eras of Starfleet history that we haven't seen before, and that's what we're going to do with a lot of these. That's my hope to do with a lot of these remasters.
And over time, don't get your hopes to see.
Yeah, over
Yeah,
the time.
over time.
These two
It takes
ships.
a while.
Yeah, we've been working on these two remasters for, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. Like the process is very slow when you're working with certain outsourcers and stuff. So so it'll be a while, but it's just you keep chipping away at it like we've done with everything in Stowe, and the game just gradually continues to improve.
Folks are commenting in chat that I just made the Titan A when I was screwing around with the different stuff, which is funny. That's one of the great things about this game is before we get to a ship, sometimes you can still make that ship.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I started.
In fact, there was some anxiety, because people were, after Lower Deck, after the California class was revealed in Lower Decks, the first thing people did was they went to their little Mirandas and swapped out struts until they're like, check out this like California class that I made, and it was before we had actually put it in the game, and I got a nervous email from somebody be like, I think CBS is going to be unhappy about this, and I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. We can't take this stuff away. Like, like it's not the actual California class. It's just people getting creative with the ship tailor.
I don't think CBS would ever be mad about that, but
They force us to remove all ship customization of any kind.
They were forced us to remove all ships. Game goes out of business tomorrow.
Vassier asked me that question on Twitter, and I have actually video, pretty long video about the process of designing, modeling, and texturing starships that I put together a little while ago. That'll answer that question about the patterns, how we do the whole patterns and texturing.
Nerds. I mean, no, that's really cool.
Grumpy Old Nord says, shame comic companies don't have the same view about costumes in Champions. That's because in Champions, you guys are making exact replicas, not this kind of looks like California class. Yeah. All right. Well, we've got one more ship to look at here. This is the other ship in that C-Store bundle that started with the Valdras.
You got it.
When do we get the Pack-led Clump ship? Soon, I hope.
Oh my god.
Someday.
I have anxiety about that. Not just from the model, but the materials. Like, that's actually the tricky part, is that we need so many different materials for it. That it could be a...
Yeah.
And ideally, like, I think all of us would love to see it be like customizable, that you can change your clumps.
Oh, that would be super
Lord.
cool. That would be so cool.
I understand.
But you know what? But you know what though? With a Pack-led Clump ship, you don't have to worry as much if the parts actually fit. Like, I'm not saying create an open tailor thing where you can throw any ship part on anything, but like, if it looks terrible, that's okay.
But it's the materials things, because like one they sell, if it's a Romulan ship, needs to have the Romulan material, and if the other one's a
the materials is the problem.
One of the problems.
Yeah. All right. Well, one more ship to look at. Let's go do that, and y'all can see why I tweeted what I did earlier. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen, the Seneca. So tell us a little bit about this one, Thomas.
So this is the Seneca, which is, some people in the chat have already guessed, T6 Hiawatha.
Yep.
Now, it's funny because we don't actually know what the class of the Hiawatha is, because they only just see the USS Hiawatha and never gave it a class name. But anyway, Hiawatha was shown crashed in the Season 2 episode of Star Trek Discovery, where Jet Reno was stranded with, I think there were some other crew that she had kept alive. It was a medical, they stole the term medical frigate from Star Wars, but who's counting? And so we decided it was time to finally bring the Hiawatha to Stowe, since it was a canon ship. A lot of people that don't like it, I actually think it's kind of fun. I like utilitarian type ships that have with kind of a long fuselage and
that's a
got
a lot of utility you can get from that ship.
Right, with the cargo
I've heard
pods
that it looks
stuff.
very much like a freighter, and I can see some of that, but more so with the original design. The Seneca, I think, is Federation starship through and through.
Yeah,
It's
and
such a cool design.
and just like with the Norway, you have the T6 version that you buy in the C store with the Seneca costume, but you'll also be able to use the Canon Hiawatha costume option as well. And so this thing has, and so when I was pretty adamant that if we did this, I wanted it to be a carrier because that's what I felt like the sort of STO. And I guess I'm stealing a little bit of Jeremy's thunder, but the reason to do this ship in STO at all was to make it a carrier, right? Because you had the cool cargo pods on the side with a giant hangar bay. It was a good fit for me.
That's just neat. I love those little details when we do giant cargo bays like that.
Theoretically, I could see if this was actually like a real ship, you could change all of those modular pods into hangars and have like 12
that
on
was,
each side.
That was my thinking. Absolutely. And I didn't have time, but I actually thought about doing like different mod like options like that, right? And with this ship's customized, you can actually customize the pods. You can swap them out between the Hiawatha and the Seneca versions.
Very cool.
I gotta see that.
We'll have to go play with that at our space dock in a minute.
And so both the Hiawatha and the Seneca were modeled by Tobias Richter for us, and Hector Ortiz designed the Seneca.
Did the concept for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk through some stats about this guy. We'll look at the stations first. So this has a Lieutenant Universal Miracle Worker, a Lieutenant Commander Tactical, a Lieutenant Commander Engineering, a Commander Science Command, so we got another command ship in this bundle, which makes sense, and Ensign Science. Tell us about what role this ship is filling in the world out there, Jeremy.
It is trying to be as true to the fiction of it being a medical frigate as we can pull off in STO and still be a desirable ship. So it focuses on command, which is a very support focused specialization. It has the two hangar bays that come with a new pet variant that we it looks like this one might have the Valkyries equipped on it, but it has a new runabout variant that is a support
I think it's
runabout.
The Valkyrie art, but it is the runabouts.
Okay. So these are just like the Danubes, only instead of having a tractor beam, they have a nanite repair payload, so they can heal themselves and other nearby allies. So much more support-focused pet.
Might have to rehook up the right art. I think Joe got too aggressive with the art on those icons.
Which is funny because the art.
And I wanted to answer
was missing on the actual Valkyries. So
yeah, it was. I wanted to answer a question that came up with the Valdras, and will come up here as well. These new pets are unlocked by buying these ships, but they can be used on any ship once you own them. There's no restriction on equipping them. So if you want to take the support runabouts and put them on any other ship with a hangar, including cross-faction, because whatever.
Yeah.
So it is a full science carrier with 2 hangar bays and runabout pets.
And I think we need to update that costume too, right? We wanted to use the Yellowstone and not the...
Oh, yeah, no, I need to... Yep. They need to be using the Yellowstone skins.
Okay. So not everything... We're showing stuff early because it's Fleet Week. Not everything is going to be perfect.
These haven't even had their first QA pass yet either.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So lots of things might change.
Let's see, what else? Let me give you a quick stat rundown. 1.25 hull, 1.35 shield. So this is quite a sturdy carrier, which also goes along with it being a command ship. Those ships tend to be a little more on the sturdy range. Turn rate of 6.5, impulse mod 0.15, inertia is 25. So it's not turning on a dime. But just like any science carrier, it's got subsystem targeting. It can use cannons, and it does have the inspiration mechanic from being a command primary.
Nice. All right, and the trait is Supplementary Coordination Network. Tell us about this one.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this trait, actually. This is the one that made me want to buy the ship.
Yeah, so this is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. When you launch your hangar pets, you get an immediate cooldown reduction on all of your command bridge officer abilities and all of your captain abilities by 5% per activation. And this applies even if you already have all of your pets out, but it only applies if you're in combat. So autofire might screw you out of a cooldown once in a while. But this will fill a niche. There's not very many starship traits that offer you a cooldown reduction on your captain abilities. and there's nothing that affects all command buff abilities. So if those fit with your build and you're using a carrier, this is probably a good choice for you. There's a bunch of other stuff that triggers or reduces your cooldowns on your hanger pets, or also triggers off of your hanger pet launching. So there's a good amount of synergies that might be able to leverage here.
All right, and Science Console. They're not going to be able to read that. Going to have to move me and Thomas again. All right, here we go. So this is the non-baryonic buffer field.
Yeah. So this was really weird.
Jeremy, you put a buffer field on this ship?
Yeah. Okay. So what this does is this takes any incoming damage that you or nearby allies receive that would be pre-resist values above 10% of your hull, is instead immediately not applied as direct damage and instead converted into radiation damage over time and reduced. So you only receive 50% of that damage. So this is actually very similar to the clicky ability that was on the Lorca armor on ground. Some players might be familiar with that, but this is the space version of that, essentially. Only this version also works for yourself and nearby allies, which can include your hanger pets as well. Up to 10 allies within 5k of you get this buff. It will shut off immediately if you ever get 20 stacks of that dot, at which point you probably be dead anyway. So but yeah, that's what it does. It converts incoming damage above a certain threshold into longer duration damage so that you have more of a chance to respond to it, more of a chance to heal yourself through it.
Got it.
Basically delaying that damage. And the fiction of it being a non-baryonic field is it's like timey-wimey. You know, it takes that damage and instead of just going pow right into your hull, it goes
It's really a ship about erecting support for your allies so that they can penetrate enemy defenses and bring it to a satisfying conclusion.
Listen, we didn't come up with the Hiawatha.
Launch fireworks.
And you will see.
You didn't come up with this. You didn't come up with this ship, but Jeremy did put a buffer field on it, and he thought we wouldn't notice.
Oh man.
All right, let's warp over to Earth Space Dock, and we can show people the Hiawatha as well.
I should have saved the stats to tell you about it here. Oh, the fleet version, I can still spill some stuff on it to fill the time.
Spill some. Get us going on the fleet version. Slide that right in there.
The fleet version obviously has the 10% boost to hull and shields. It gains the console layout on the non-fleet version is 3-3-4, so 3 TAC 3 engineering 4 psi, and it gains an engineering console. The fleet version does, so it becomes a 3-4-4. And both of these, this and the Fleet Norway, are available on tier 3 of your fleet shipyard. So a little bit of work, but that should be obtainable by most players.
All right, so we appear to have run into a little bit of a bug, and we are stuck with the Hiawatha now. But that is okay, because that is what we wanted to do.
Just hit cancel. It won't.
Yeah, I know.
It won't change the ship, but yeah. I wonder if I didn't ever do the costume set. But it's fine. We'll look into that.
We've got time.
Would it be possible to do a ramming speed build with this ship? I don't think so. It's not really built for that. Better to go.
But you could probably crash land yourself on a nearby asteroid.
Hit advanced.
Yeah, there's no other parts available. I already checked.
No, but hit advanced though. I just want to see if the fleet logo thing is there.
Oh, yes, it is.
Okay, and so you scroll down to the fleet logo.
I'm already there. I'm looking at Caduceus United Federation of Planets.
Yeah. Okay, so you can. So it's kind of hidden by the spotlight there, but you can swap out that little logo on the front if you want a Caduceus or the UFP or your regular fleet logo. So
that is really cool.
I forgot you did that.
I love that.
Yeah, it is supposed to be a medical ship.
Are there? Okay, so the parts aren't available to me. So
No.
Okay, cool. But that's a
upgrade on this. Looks nice. Sorry, I just like playing around with different materials on these things.
Yeah, it has all the Discovery Starfleet materials. I think the material that ends up being the canon material on it is the Discovery Constitution. That was just the match. But but then you can add anything else you want.
How do you figure out when a material matches? Is that just some arcane knowledge that lives in the recesses of Thomas's brain, or what?
I mean, you just look at the reference and you're like, this is the closest material to what we already have to what's on the reference.
You just
So
look at the
yeah,
reference
so
and-
it is magic in Thomas's brain. Yes.
It's the trained artist's eye. I mean, Mo can do it too. You know, it's
Yeah, I mean,
if you-
it's also about like picking the right colors or for the patterns.
Mhm.
That always
Yeah.
makes a huge difference. The right amount of contrast.
Jeremy, question in chat over whether this will have allow the Walker Bridge because it is a Discovery era ship.
I'll have to check our precedents on that. I think that if other Discovery ships have that, including their 2410 versions, then yes. But I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'll look
Cool.
into it.
All right. Well, those are all the new ships we had to show off. We are going to do a deep dive on the Constitution next, but before we do that, I'm going to do a quick break because I need to use the bathroom. So we're going to head over to standby, and then when we come back, we'll talk the Constitution. That is what I meant, yeah. I meant the Odyssey. The Odyssey, not the Constitution. Right. There we go.
Right.
Okay. Muted. Great. Good. All right. I'm gonna run to the bathroom. Mo and Jeremy, you folks do not have to hang out for this if you don't want, or you can hang out for this if you want. All right, I'm back. Mo, you hanging out? Oh, that's fine. You can go. I just was looking around at who was still in. Looks like Jeremy left the call. Okay, cool. Yeah, dude. Get some sleep. Thanks. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. And we're back. Totally back, and nobody heard anything while we were gone. Nobody heard anything. Okay, anyway.
I actually didn't because I didn't have my headphones on when I was
Yeah,
away.
well, my
so.
headphones were in here, so I'm hoping. I just know they heard
Okay.
stuff. I'm hoping they didn't hear, stuff.
Right.
They heard me say goodnight to Mo. I know that.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
So Thomas, tell us.
No, hold on. This actually, I want to share this because this is one of the few times that my grandma was ever funny. And I love my grandma obviously, but she wasn't really didn't ever tell a lot of jokes to me anyway. But she said she went to a show one time, with a comedian, and some people went to the bathroom and they came back, and when they came back, the comedian was like, "Oh, did you hear us while you're out there?" And the audience member was like, kind of shrugged and like, "No," and the comedian was like, "'Cause we sure heard you." Like, no.
No.
But imagine a 70-year-old lady saying that. I think it gets a little funnier.
That is hilarious. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the now canon Enterprise F, the Odyssey class here, which you spent a whole bunch of time making pretty to send to Picard, so that the Picard team, so they could use it in the show. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that process and what's new and exciting about the ship.
Yeah, so and I have a ambition to do like a big long thread that goes through the history of this ship, because this ship has been around for a decade now, I think almost exactly, and it started off, just a little history lesson. It started off as a contest. So Cryptic, we wanted to do an Enterprise F. We wanted to do our own version of the Enterprise for Star Trek Online, and so we talked to CBS at the time about that, and their suggestion was, because of the success they had with the Luna, USS Titan, their suggestion was to do a contest for the Enterprise, and especially because it is an Enterprise, that they felt that that fans should have kind of a stake in the game, some skin in the game, to what it would look like, and so we did that. We opened up this this giant contest for people to design the next Enterprise, is what it was called, and we got hundreds of submissions. And I think I was on the Dark Mom Consortium stream the other day talking about this a little bit. People say that if you have a contest like that, it's like, oh, they're lazy, they don't want to do it themselves, they want to get fans to do the work for them, and I want to reiterate that no, it is way more work to run a contest like that than it would be if you had just done the thing yourself. And you know this too, right? From all the ship design contests, or not really contests, but yeah, which have been great and a lot of fun. But it's effort. It's a lot more work to run the brackets and to kind of evaluate entries. We got hundreds of designs, and a lot of them were just people Googling Enterprise or spaceship or whatever and submitting it, but it was clearly not their art. And it happened right after I started working on the STO team, and I just sort of took it upon myself to sift through them, because I knew I had been around the Star Trek fan art community for a long time, and so I could recognize a lot of these plagiarized ships, and so I could filter them out and okay, and I would check the names of the entrant against the name of the design to make sure I didn't disqualify anybody who had actually designed something that was that had been submitted. But it's stuff like that, right? That I think people don't realize, that when you're doing this, if you want to do it with integrity, you have to. There's a lot of work that goes into filtering all that stuff out. So long story long.
There's the judging process, and then there's all the work it takes to take that design and put it in the game.
Right, exactly. And so we filtered through all the entrants, and we had our top 10 or whatever, or top 5 or runners up, and then we settled on the drawing by Adam Isle. And the key feature of the drawing that we selected as a winner for the Enterprise was this kind of dual neck thing, and I'm gonna see if I can. All right, bring that over, and I'm gonna try to find that drawing for you guys really quick. And so the cool thing about it was it was clearly a Federation starship in a traditional Enterprise arrangement, right? The saucer and the cells, the neck, but it had these two necks, and the two necks, the dual necks, was really the thing we fixated on. As well, this is cool because it's traditional, familiar, but it has this new element that we've never seen before, and so. So we took that drawing, and then it went to Adam Williams, who was the ship artist on Star Trek Online at the time, and he worked with our art lead, Jeremy Matson, to refine that design. And so it's, it's a tricky, words are powerful, and words mean specific things, right? Because you can say that, like, I can say I built this model of the Enterprise because I did. I started from scratch. And I built the model, and I built the materials, and I built the windows and all that stuff, the decals, like all of that is my art. Like I did it myself. Yeah. I did not design the Enterprise, right? Designing something and building something, those are two different things. Designing is starting with like a blank piece of paper and saying, what is this going to look like? Whereas building a model in this case is creating the thing in the medium that it will be used for the TV show or whatever. So the design of the ship, really, I think a lot of credit, obviously the credit goes to Adam Isle for the initial drawing, but a lot of credit really needs to go to Adam Williams and Jeremy Matson, who were the initial cryptic artists who took that drawing and then really refined it and iterated on it, and they added an elegance to it that wasn't quite there in the original drawing. It was the final design was a lot more organic, and this was a kind of a watershed moment in Star Trek ship history, because before the Enterprise F, all the ships on STO had been very kind of blocky and armored up and much more like Star Wars inspired. But when Adam Williams looked at the progression of the Enterprises from the C to the B to C to D to E, and now to the F, he realizes that they were getting sleeker and they were getting more organic, and that the real evolution of Starfleet ships should be towards that sleek, organic nature. And so Adam Williams was the one who came up with the high contrast hull plating scheme. He's the one who came up with these really sleek lines. He really imbued a lot of the personality that we take for granted in the Odyssey. That was all Adam Williams doing when he was building that original Odyssey model. And so the next stage was in 2016 when we did the anniversary Odyssey bundle. I did 3 new variants of the ship to the T6 version, and they did the Yorktown, the Odyssey refit, essentially the Enterprise F refit. But I also updated the original Odyssey model at that time. And so at that point, I massaged the design a little bit, added a few more key details here and there, and then fast forward to 2022. We had done a lot of ships for Star Trek Picard. We'd given them a lot of our ship models. We remastered ships before we sent them to them to make sure they're the best they could be. And it was unclear to me. One of the ships we suggested obviously was the Odyssey, because we really wanted them to use it. Because we wanted it to show up. But it was really unclear for a while if they were going to. And then I got an email from Dave Blass, and I think I was at Mission Chicago. And I get this email, and it's like, can you send me the Enterprise F? It wasn't, can you send me the Odyssey class, right? It was, can you send me the Enterprise F? And I was like, yes, I can, in 3 weeks.
Oh my God, I remember that morning, because I came down, like we came downstairs to head to the con, and you were just like, oh!
Yeah. Exactly. It was because I knew that the model we had, I mean, it was 6 years old at that point, 2016, and it just wasn't going to hold up. It wasn't going to be what they needed, and I knew if we sent that to them that it just wouldn't be useful. And so the only, I asked him that, and he's like, "Yes, that's fine as long as it really is 3 weeks." And so I was like, "Okay, well, this is just what I'm going to be doing for the next 3 weeks. Is building this ship,
And
rebuilding it."
To be clear, when Thomas says what I'm going to be doing for the next 3 weeks, because this is something that I don't think people really understand about how much work went into this ship. Literally for the next 3 weeks, not like during the day when he was supposed to be working, like he dropped all of his day task stuff to work on the Enterprise F. It was he works on the Enterprise F all day, then he eats dinner, then he works on the Enterprise F all night.
Yeah. I did not. I mean, but that was the only way I could get it done in that amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the actual person hours that went into this is probably, more like, I don't know, 180 to 200. And you pack that into 3 weeks because that's just sort of what you have to do. And it's a brand new model, and it's a brand new model at a detail level I had never really worked at before. It's still not quite what you would consider like a film quality model, but it's still, I knew that just doing it at the STO level wouldn't be good enough. And it's a brand new material. Like I said, this is a kind of Type 6A, like we did the Type 7A. This is inspired by the original Odyssey material, Type 6 material, but it is a new material with high resolution and more detail, more subtle detail. I'll probably, instead of calling it Type 6A, I'll probably end up calling it the Odyssey material whenever it does get into the game. So it was just there's no real way to like sugarcoat it in the sense of it was just a lot of work rebuilding this model in that time frame. And while I was doing it, I was looking for opportunities to refine the design, to layer on things to it that made it feel even more fleshed out and feel even more at home among all the other kind of Star Trek Enterprises and hero ships. And so, without further ado, because I know I've been chatting a lot about this, we're gonna zoom in a little bit.
Yeah. Let's dive in
and take a closer look.
The stuff that you've done.
So we're gonna mainly look at the top because that's what you saw from the trailer. I will show off a couple things from the bottom. I'm a little nervous about getting like too close into things that isn't on the show, just because I don't necessarily want to take away from any big reveals or whatever. But here we'll look at this saucer.
Just to quickly answer a question from chat that I've seen come up a few times about saucer separation or the Aquarius or things like that. We don't know what the ship will be doing in the show. We sent them the model; they have all of that, but we won't be able to answer any of those questions. Not just because we can't spoil it, but because we don't know. We might find out in advance, but most likely we're going to find out when you folks do.
Right. Yeah. So I hope. I would expect that it's just kind of going to be a Federation starship. I'm not sure if it's going to do anything super fancy.
Yeah.
But the Aquarius is in there. I did model that. The saucer separation is in there because the intention is to get this into STO eventually. So it has all the pieces it needs to be in STO. But it's just like whatever they like. I didn't write a big thing about you guys should do the Aquarius thing or whatever. Like it's just I gave them the model and then we'll see what they do with it.
Yeah. Well, honestly, we wouldn't have the right is the wrong word, but it's the best one I can come up with. We wouldn't have the right to send them all of that stuff anyway and like demand you have to do this. The ship has to do this and this.
Right. So as we get in here closer, a couple of features I want to draw attention to. The original Odyssey has this big bumper on the front, and so I just added some things like little corners to the smile with little pod bay doors and stuff to just give it a bit more of a function. I'm not exactly sure yet if these are airlocks or some kind of launchers or something, but I wanted to make sure that it had a nice like cap to it. And then you've got some cannons and stuff, torpedo launchers on the side. We've got our transporter emitter here. You place those all over the ship. New windows based on the Sovereign Windows style and escape pods, and that was very much because I wanted this to feel like the next step beyond the Sovereign, and I really like the little islands of escape pods the Sovereign has. So I thought it'd be cool to bring that back in the Odyssey, and I think it's a great way to break up this. The hull is very white, like it's a very bright hull. So having these little kind of trapezoidal shapes breaks it up. There's another thing in here.
Can I ask a technical question? What's the
Yeah.
Is it changing to a wireframe every time you move it? Is that what we're seeing? The pink lines?
Well, so this program is Marmoset Toolbag. It's a 3D rendering program with a really high fidelity ray tracing engine. And so essentially what it's doing, it's re-rendering the scene every time I move it. And it's re-rendering it to such a degree of fidelity and bounce light and shadows that it just takes a second to catch up. So it's not quite, it's like it's doing all the stuff that our engine doesn't have time to do because it's a real-time engine, but this is more about rendering like images or video frames one at a time. So it's just there's a lot more going on. Like you can see how there's this red glow over there.
Yeah.
That's a ray trace reflection from the Bussard collectors,
Oh, wow.
right? Which is super cool, and that's really complicated calculation to make. Especially in real time. So, and in a normal game, you would have a screen space reflections to where you wouldn't see that reflection unless the Bussard was actually on the screen. But here, it's actually doing the real, like tracing the light and bouncing it the way that it would in nature, I guess is the best way to put it. So I don't know if people have noticed these windows. On the lip of the saucer, I wanted to do a nice little homage to the Strange New Worlds Enterprise. So you've got kind of a thing with the little cut on the top there to
that's cool.
give it a little overhang. And of course we've got all the little decals and hatches and stuff built into the structure, like we've started to do. The bridge module has been updated quite a bit, based on what Nick did with the remastered Yorktown Bridge. I saw that to some extent as a retcon of the Odyssey Bridge, and so I definitely based the layout of this new module from the exterior. It matches the shape of the cutouts and the struts and stuff from Nick's new bridge. Added some escape pods, and just generally made it feel more coherent and textured, layered. These Star Trek ships generally have a lot of layers at this level, a lot of tiers of the bridge cake, as we call it. And so,
do you actually call it that?
Yeah, I do.
That's amazing.
So got a couple things going on at the rear end of the bridge cake. We've got these blue circles, which are a reference to the new Sagan class. I saw a labeled thing from Drexler, and warp regulator, I think warp field regulator. And I thought it'd be really cool, since I was building this ship after we already saw the Stargazer in Star Trek Picard Season 2, I thought it'd be really cool to borrow some of the technology from the Sagan and put it on the Odyssey to link those two together. So these are like warp field regulators. Nice. Inspired by what you saw on the Sagan.
That's so cool to be able to take a ship that like existed before, because you mentioned the Discovery Enterprise earlier, and now you're mentioning the Sagan, like to take a ship that existed before in reality, but not necessarily in continuity, and be like, oh well,
right.
I can use the design language now that I'm updating it. That's just neat.
Yeah, I like doing that, and I like tying it together, and it's it makes it's building that universe, right? And so we've got a little phaser turret on the back here above this is a airlock door. This is inspired by the motion picture Enterprise. If you remember, the Spock's shuttle comes in and docks next to the bridge. And so I thought it'd be cool to have an airlock kind of exactly in the same place. I had to cut out a little divot there for the docking port to actually fit. all these things that you're doing. And then below that is a big officer's lounge. That was actually on the original, or my previous remaster that was not a rebuild. That was just updating the old model. I added these big observation lounge windows above the shuttle bay. So I kept those. And then coming back here, this is the updated shuttle bay. I'm going to see really quick if there are other lights might work better here. Yeah, not great. It's not great. Maybe not. All right, well, we'll just go back to, this is not great lighting, but at least you'll be able to, I thought you were able to see, whatever. We're just going to go, yeah, this is what I was looking for. Okay, so it's a little easier to see at least. The shuttle bay, this used to be one giant door that you could basically fly the Defiant through, and that seemed really silly to me. So I broke it up just like I did on the Yorktown remaster. So now it's 3 shuttle bays that are kind of 3 double-decker shuttle bays, kind of side by side.
What if I want to dock the Defiant, Thomas?
You already have an Aquarius on the ship. You don't need to dock the Defiant.
But I want to do a turducken of ships.
Yeah. So we're talking about ray tracing. I mean, the cool thing with ray tracing that you get is these little, see that blue light that's reflected on the sidewall coming from this thing? I didn't bake that in. That's just the program is automatically doing that, which is really cool. So that blue light is a tractor beam emitter. We've got the red control room windows there for those 2 shuttle bays. There are 3 shuttle bays. The landing strips, and then on the back I added some of these vertical launch hatches. Don't know what for, but something cool. Because I just think that's just a really fun ship detail that I like. Inspired by submarines and destroyers and stuff have these vertical launch systems. I'm sure Starfleet has a good reason for it. Kind of back there, and then traveling further back, we've got another phaser turret. These details are seen all over the ship. That is taken directly from the old Type 6 material, except that it's not on the material anymore. I just modeled the actual thing and then placed it exactly where I wanted it. Because before it was on the material, so it might show up in weird places or be cut off depending on how you had mapped the material. So now it's just like, oh, I'm going to put this thing here and put another one there. So I think they are some sort of like shield generators or radiators or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but falling back some more, we've got the Aquarius in the dock, like I mentioned before. We've got our rear torpedo launchers. We've got the rear impulse engines. I'm going to see if I can get better lighting here. Over the course of the ship, I added these little panels, just like decal panels, just to kind of break up the space. And there's some more on the bottom. But
when you're building something like this, Thomas, how much of it is this shape would look good here, and how much of it is like this makes sense story-wise for this to be here?
It's a little both. Sometimes you do the shape thing, and then you're like, okay, now I have to justify my art decision with a lore decision. But sometimes you're like, no, I need. Well, like, a lot of our ships now, I have to make sure that it has a phaser strip right in the middle of the front because we need a place for the forward turret node to fire from, right? And so we have to accommodate that gameplay element. That's one example. So it definitely happens like that. This area got cleaned up quite a bit. The kind of the swoopiness of the nacelles. If you look at the original Odyssey, it doesn't quite come back this far. Well, it also, this dark area just sort of jams into the nacelle, I think, in the original Odyssey, and so I tapered that out and made it more of a layered attachment point like you'll see on other Starfleet ships. And then we've got the nacelles, what I'm actually really, really proud of the nacelles on this. They were pretty extensively updated. So from the front, you can see that this actually has like a bit of a shark mouth inspired by like a P-40 or a P-51 World War II fighter, or like an F-16 Falcon. That's another good example. That's probably the best example. And so there's like a little intake down here. This is a little smaller, and then from the side, you'll see that we've got this nice parallel line that parallels the busser collector in the back, and then the blue warp grill, on the front end there. But the actual like intake manifold of the warp engine, that's straight up and down, so it gives it a really nice like layered look.
Cool.
Which I'm proud of. And so that I have to give a lot of credit to the artist Bill Krause, who's done some amazing original series era starship designs, because he's done a lot of this muscle car, World War II airplane nacelle kind of thing. And so when I was working on this, I really wanted to level up the nacelle design, and so I looked a lot at Bill's work, and I'm really pleased with how these turned out. And then the other major difference, I think some people have already noticed, is that these nacelles, instead of going down, following that curve, they actually flatten out a little bit to give it a little bit of a kind of a whoosh.
Yeah, it's all just got this very like motion in motion deal.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Odyssey has been pejoratively called a whale before. And so I kind of with the nacelles wanted to lean into that even more, right? To make those feel like shark fins. With the way that they taper down and flow back. So so that's kind of a big overview at the top. I'll quickly let people look at the bottom a little bit. But one thing I do, some people on Twitter have noticed that I will go into really quick to show off, is the shuttle bay. This is brand new. I added this with the remaster. This is a forward-facing shuttle bay between the necks, and there's also added these like Excelsior-style grill details on the inside of the necks too, to give them a bit more function. So to make it feel like, oh, there's something going on in the necks that's why the neck has to be there, because you have to have these big machines, whatever it is they do, in the neck, and it has to be split like this. So.
I like that. My brain keeps wanting to take that space and be like, oh, it's for wind resistance. Nope, space. Maybe
Right,
it's for generating power through air. Nope, space.
Right, it's a subspace thing. Quantum slipstream, something.
There you go.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I want to show off right now. But I hope people enjoyed the closer look at it. I'm really, really proud of it, and I feel like I've done enough work. When we were doing the original iteration on Isle's drawing, it really evolved quite a bit. And I made a couple suggestions that did get worked into the final model. But I feel like with all the iterations that I did on this rebuild, I feel like I can kind of tack my name on the end too, of like people who have contributed to the design of the Enterprise F. But it really isn't. I don't think it's fair to say that it's like one person who designed it, because Adam Isle did the original drawing, and then Adam Williams did so much development of that in building the 3D model, and it's a lot changed while he was building that model, and then I came in for this new model and made my own changes to the design as well. So
it's a big family that all worked together on making this.
Right. Well, it's funny because it's all these people worked on it, but there's a time delay of like 10 years.
Yeah.
Of all these, right? Like me doing this year is like 10 years after it was originally made. I forgot one other thing I wanted to point out was it's subtle, but I added these like sovereign style plates to the dark areas, which I think when it catches the light in a certain way, you can see them.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so there are a lot of little details like that all over the ship. And you've got these little nav things on the side. So I did a lot of functional stuff to the design to really fill it out. And I'm really, really proud of it.
You should be, man. This is a beautiful, beautiful ship, and I'm just so excited that people are going to get to that. More people than just the amazing fans of STO are going to get to see this ship and see it, in the show. whatever it will do or be in the show.
Thanks so much. I saw a question in chat about the Valdras. That's actually a region of Norway that Eric Henry has ancestors. So he suggested the name of that ship, and that's why we picked that specific name.
Nice.
I just want to put that on the record.
Very cool.
So
all
thanks,
right.
Mike.
Yeah, thank
letting
you,
me show
Thomas.
off the Enterprise.
This has been really fun. This has been great, and Fleet Week is still rolling on. Don't forget that we've got a whole week left of streams, and then the giant panel day on Sunday with amazing guests like Rick Sternbach and Aaron McDonald and so many more. So check that out. If you don't know about it, go to playstartrekonline.com and just click on the featured news post, and you'll get all the info. And keep an eye on our Twitter, which is where we're announcing most of the streams. And Thomas, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Oh man, it's my pleasure, and I'm just super excited to share more about all these ships we've been working on for quite a while, and the Enterprise F, and just can't believe it's going to be canon.
I
So
know, it's
that's
amazing.
just so cool.
So I am just gonna see who's streaming. Q is still going with Aaron.
To do
Cool.
in
to raid them.
perpetuity, I have blanket permission.
Yeah, I think he is. All right, so let's raid Q.
Oh wait, hold on. Somebody asked this, and I forgot. We forgot to show this off. Wake of Love. Yes, I did make while I was doing the remaster. Doing all the work on the remasters of the Excalibur and Vesper. We did make a variant of the Macduff nacelles for the Constitution. I actually checked that in last night, so it might not even have been in the build. But it will go out whenever that other stuff goes out. So there are going to be Constitution style refit nacelles with the red glowies in the front that people have been asking me for.
That is awesome. All right, we are getting ready for raid. Thomas, thank you so much. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of Fleet Week. We've been having a blast. And oh wow, we had a lot of people tonight. We're sending 300 people Q's way. Yeah,
we were at 500 at one point.
Nice. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.